Let's go.
Welcome to the Soul Fam podcast, where we expand your personal universe. I'm Diana Marquetta, and in each episode, Soul Fam co-founder, co-creator Lexi Strummer-Solden and I interview the world's most rising and longtime experts in consciousness, spirituality, entertainment, healing, and science. From Earth's dimensions and dimensions way, way beyond. On the Soul Fam podcast, our frequencies are high and your heart chakras will open as these powerful voices of today share cutting-edge research, profound experiences, and valuable knowledge for your world in this out-of-this-world, thought-provoking, envelope-pushing interviews that could only take place right here on the Soul Fam podcast. Welcome to the Soul Fam podcast. I'm Diana Marquetta. Please remember to like and subscribe. It makes a massive difference to us here at the Soul Fam podcast and helps push content of spirituality, consciousness, expanding our personal universe. It's super helpful to us. It's greatly appreciated. This is part 2 of the Lucid Dreaming Journal that was inspired by Haley, the Lucid Mystic, who we interviewed in a previous episode. This is part 2. I talked about a dream that I had in part 1. So I'm going to talk again about another dream that I had just as part of this Lucid Dreaming Journal test drive. I wanted to test drive this because our experts talk about some different techniques to deal with our consciousness or our stress or our ability to connect with other realms, even animal communication. So I took the Lucid Dreaming Journal for a test drive because I just wanted to see if it would help me in any way. And maybe that would help you if you were at all interested in it. Wanted to make a couple of corrections about the first episode in which I named someone from Instagram and I mispronounced her name. Her name is The Real Florina, and she constantly posts on Instagram. She channels a lot. She gives a lot of spiritual advice. She's very encouraging to us on this journey. And I happened to listen to a meditation that she posted on March 27th about rebuking negative energy. So I listen to that every night as I'm starting to fall asleep, and I'll discuss my sleep ritual again further in just a second. The other aspect that I wanted to talk about relative to the stream that I talked about in the first video was that in the dream, I talked about Sally Jessy Raphael, who is a former talk show host. In the dream, Sally Jessy Raphael, at the very end of the dream, actually turned to me and said, "Well, it looks like we're okay now." And that was a reference to the fact that in the dream, there was a storm outside the windows, tsunami, and an earthquake, something that was kind of terrifying. And she referred to that meaning we were actually safe and that we could proceed. And so she turned to me, said, "It looks like we're okay now." And she said, "You can take it from here." And I became her for just a moment. And at the same time, there was an aspect of me that was like, no, don't go too far. Don't go away. I'm not doing this. No, I'm not doing this. And then I ended up, being the one that turned back to the class and became the instructor leader of the class. So I just wanted to point that out. Kind of making note of things like that is important when you're in the dream journaling process, because I'd forgotten about that aspect of Sally Jessy Raphael and the things that she said. And then when I went back and looked at my journal, I was like, oh, wait, this is how the dream actually ended. And I think that's important because it reveals something about you. It may reveal something about your future. It may reveal something about something you're desiring to do. It may reveal something about, your current reality and what it really means. So that's why it's important to make some notes, but right after the dream, and then go back to them again and just say, hey, wait a minute, you might remember something that's really important for your own spiritual journey, for your own self-growth, for your career, for your family, whatever it might be. So in the second dream, I'm going to talk about a friend of mine who's very spiritual as well, very high frequency. She's very psychic. She does not practice it professionally constantly. She does it sometimes. She does have a few clients, but she has another job and she's has incredible insights, and we kind of are on the same spiritual journey together. I have a few friends that it all coincided at the same time. I've been on mine probably since I was born, and more intensely in the last 20 years, and then sort of took another jump during COVID. So in this dream, this friend and I were driving down a gravel road on a hill, driving a dually Ford pickup truck. If anybody knows what a dually is, it has double wheels in the back, and it's kind of a big truck. And I grew up on the farm. We were going past the original acreage of the farm that I grew up on, that my family came over to the United States in the 1800s. And that was the portion of the farm that's the original. It's my favorite part. We're driving past the pasture part of the farm where there's cattle. And that's also one of my favorite parts, cattle. And driving down the road, and there were big, huge ruts on either side of the road from erosion. Also, behind us, probably a good quarter of a mile or so, was someone whom I used to work for, who still owes me money, actually, and was following us in his pickup truck and was aware that we were in front of him. We were aware that he was behind us, but it was kind of inconsequential, or so at least I thought. So in the dream, my girlfriend's driving, and she works in the airline business. I'll just say that. And she happened to catch, the tire happened to catch in a rut, and the whole truck turned parallel on the gravel dirt road and was sort of skidding down the hill. And I was thinking, oh no, her dad taught her how to fly an airplane, but she doesn't know how to, drive in the country. And I looked at her like, we're going to crash. This is going to be bad. And she just looked at me and she's like, yeah, I got this. And she kind of was very, very relaxed and nonchalant about it. And I was not completely freaking out, but I was super concerned. And however, as we were sliding down parallel on the hill, on the gravel dirt road, I did have this sense of comfort and this sense that we're fine. And then she sort of gently just turned the truck, and it went back the direction it was supposed to be going. And we proceeded. And she was sort of like, see? We drove down the gravel road, proceeded to the offices of the place that I used to work. And she dropped me off. It was a house actually with a screen porch, and there was a back entrance and a front entrance, and I went through the front entrance. She drove on. I knew she was going to circle back and pick me up at one point. And so I walked into the porch to pick up my tools, and the owner of the company who was following us, who I no longer work for, came in the back way and then walked up to me, and he said, okay, so we've got this project and we got to get going. And so come on. It was sort of clear to me that it was going to be a consistent job at a lower pay rate, which I wasn't happy about. But part of me said, gee, maybe I should just take this consistent job at a lower pay rate. Maybe I can talk to him about the money he owes me. And, maybe I should do this. This is the practical thing to do. And so we walked out the door. He walked ahead of me. He went off to his truck, assuming I was going to follow him. I got to the edge of the road. I looked at him. I had my tools with me and my tool belt. And I looked down the other side of the road and no one was there. And I know he went on expecting me just to follow him. And instead, I turned to the right and walked down the road. And I knew my friend was going to turn around at some point and come pick me up. And I figured I'll just find her. It's not important. So it's just a really interesting dream in the sense that it was reassuring to me that, this is my journey. This is my spiritual path. This is what I'm supposed to be on. I did not get the sense of lucid dreaming. And that is something Haley pointed out to me, just kind of in reviewing my first video, was that I wasn't really lucid dreaming. I was dreaming, but it's like a step towards becoming a lucid dreamer. So that in a lucid dream, you actually sort of become part of the dream and you can control the dream and you can shift the dream. These dreams, I'm more of an observer at this point. I'm sort of a student. I'm learning. So she wanted me to be aware of that. So it's just been a really interesting part of this week's journey. I've had lots of other dreams. I've had days where I didn't think I dreamt, but I kept a journal anyway. What I found super helpful in keeping a dream journal, a lucid dream journal, is that I'm super aware of my mentality. It's not even my thoughts, but just sort of what's my vibe? What's my mental attitude for the day? What is my emotional well-being? What is going on around me? And I'm very aware of my presence in the 3D world, and then very aware of my presence in the 5D world. It's been really interesting. So I also wanted to point out a couple of tips in case you want to try lucid dreaming journaling. I just found it super helpful. And this has been sort of a crazy week in the 3D world, right? So there's a lot going on. I pray for everyone's safety, for everyone's loved ones. I'm not going to dive into any of the things that have happened this week in the United States or even around the world, but I hope and pray for everyone's safety. And I know that we can get super caught up in all of this. And part of this dream journaling kind of helped me just to keep my feet on the ground and my head in the clouds a little bit, and or in the 5D, and have a really broad perspective over everything instead of getting caught up into it, which I think is probably easy to do right now because it seems very unclear what's going to happen in the 3D. But it sort of feels like in the 5D, hey, everything's kind of cool. So anyway, back to the journaling. First step, get a sleep ritual, have some sort of sleep ritual, where you're sort of going to bed and you're sort of curing up your body and your brain. Hey, we're going to sleep now. And I am fortunate in that I sleep very, very deeply. However, I will say that when I was first going through sort of the ascension path, I did not sleep well. I would sleep one night and then not sleep the next night. And that's kind of how I went for a couple of years. Now I seem to have sort of transitioned into some other aspect of ascension, and I'm sort of transported to another place during my sleep. It's really actually fun and nice and super soothing. I also know with empathy that many people have sleep trouble. So whether it's that they've had traumatic brain injuries, or they have hormonal shifts going on, or they have health issues that prevent them from really getting a good night's sleep, or even anxiety, I understand how difficult that can be. And I hope that perhaps even dream journaling can help shift that. And Haley talks about that also in the interview, about how she can really help you with your sleep cycle. And that has been super helpful to me as well. I found even a couple of times when I wasn't getting a significant amount of sleep or a normal amount of sleep, I was still pretty attuned mentally speaking. And I have to say, there's been periods where I'm only getting 4 hours of sleep a night. And to many of you, that might be a luxury, but 4 hours to me is hard. And I was sort of operating on low gas, for a good month or two when I was in that sort of period for work reasons. Get a sleep ritual. Mine is basically a red light on my face, and I do a meditation with the real Florina, and that kind of helps relax me. 10 or 15 minutes, something like that. There's no time frame. It's just however my body feels. Then the second aspect that's really important for me is to do a little meditation, to sort of cue up the mind, or listen to some theta music as I'm moving into listening to the real Florina's meditation. All those sorts of things, like sort of cue my brain and my body to be in this sort of sleep state. Then the third thing that's extremely important with lucid dreaming, and I think I found just with dreaming, is to ask a question, something that's relevant to your career, to your family, to your life, maybe to the current world situation, to please show me, or please help me to understand, or what's going to happen, or how did this transpire, something like that, and something very specific, and only one question, not maybe the whole scenario, but one solid question. And I think you'll find that it actually gets answered in the dreams, perhaps not as completely clearly as you'd like, but it is answered in a way that might help give some clarity. At least that's been my experience. You may have a different experience. The fourth thing that's super important is to jot down your dream as soon as you have it. I am not one of those people that can really wake up and jot it down, but I will wake up in the morning and write a few words. And then I have personally found it super helpful to go back to that dream during the day if I have a moment or two, and just jot down some more insights that I had, or this happened, or I felt this way, or, oh, I forgot this aspect, and I want to be sure and include it. The barn was red in this, or there was a screen door on the porch, something like that. Or somebody said something to me, or there was a song playing and I forgot about that. It's just helpful in kind of putting this conscious mystery together. The fifth part is to really, really note how you are feeling. How did the dream make you feel? What is the feeling that you had during the dream? That is a very significant aspect of lucid dreaming. Haley impressed that upon me during the interview. I also found that to be significant myself in keeping a dream journal, and I found it significant even in going on each day. I wouldn't necessarily feel the same way in the dream, but I would note it both in my dream journal and just mentally make a mental note of it. And then it was interesting to see how that might be a part of my day also. I don't know that it set my attitude for the day, but it made me aware, oh, I really felt like this during the dream. I really felt sad or happy, or I was desperate, or I was hopeful, or I had a moment of anxiety and then everything was cool. So that's just really important, which I didn't necessarily think about because we kind of think about, what are the nuts and bolts of this? But there's also the feeling. That's really, really significant in lucid dreaming, in lucid dream journaling. So I hope this has been fun. Like I said, we're going to go back to the regular interview style next week. Might change things up a little bit again as we go along this summer, see what happens, maybe go out with a camera and film a little more again. But this was important to me personally to try dream journaling and to see what the results might be. The experts that we interview on the Soul Fam podcast are super devoted to you. Many of them have been in the business of some sort for more than 20 years, and they really know their stuff, and they are committed to serving. This is their mission, as it is mine, to help serve the spiritual and conscious community and to help us wake up, or to remember that we are woken up in the sense of consciousness and spirituality, and expanding our personal universe and understanding the universe in general. I am greatly appreciative of you listening to part 2 of Lucid Dreaming Journal. Please check out Haley in the previous video, and I hope you all have a beautiful week. And please remember to like and subscribe and share and make a few comments. Thank you. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Soul Fam podcast. Be sure to tune in to every episode where we dive into a different rabbit hole of the known and unknown to empower you in conscious living and exploration of the greater universe. We hope you leave each episode with a little stardust in your hair and inspiration in your heart. With love from your Soul Fam.